Okay, I am trying this for the very first time, so I have no clue whatsoever how this is going to go, but hopefully we can have some fun with it. So I'm going to show off this commander deck that I built from a box of Mystery Booster, not the latest Mystery Booster that's just come out, so not Convention Edition. This is Store Edition Mystery Booster, a box that I got maybe a year or so back when it was first released in stores. And built it just out of the cards that were in the box, plus basic lands. Yeah, and I got Reaper King, so we're looking at 5-color. There are not many Scarecrows in this deck. This is not a Scarecrow tribal deck. This is 5-color value deck. So Reaper King is our commander. Oh, these sleeves are very slippery. Reaper King is our commander. Oh, you can't see that very well at all, can you? You know what? I'm going to go and turn the light on and see if that helps at all. Does that help? Does that help? It helps a little, maybe. Does it help if I change the angle? Perhaps if I go down this way. There we go. There we go. Now you can see. Okay. So we have Reaper King. Hopefully this is around the right way for you. I don't know. Hopefully this is around the right way for you. But we have Reaper King here. All 5 colors of mana. We've got the what's called 2-brid, where you can either pay 2 generic mana or 1 of the specific color. So you can pay straight Wooburg, and that costs 5. Or for any of those colors, you can instead pay 2 generic mana. So the CMC or mana value of this card is 10, which means that if you don't have all your colors for whatever reason, you can still get it out. It's a 6/6 artifact creature Scarecrow. Other Scarecrow creatures you control get +1/+1. It's not going to come up very often. And whenever another Scarecrow comes into play under your control, destroy target permanent. Also not going to come up very often. Spoilers, there are 2 other Scarecrows in this deck. 2. But anyway, okay. I haven't sorted this deck or anything. We're just going through it as we flip them up. So first off, we have Ancient Ziggurat. It is a land. It taps for 1 mana of any color, but you can only use it to cast creature spells. So this is a handy land to have. I'd say this deck is fairly heavy on the creatures. And so this basically taps for any color and comes in untapped, which is nice. But you do have to be careful that you're not just stuck with spells in your hand with it, or you're tapping wrong and stuff like that. Oh goodness, this is a bit of a meme card. I put a couple of cards in here that are very memey and very absurd because there are cards in Mystery Booster that are just kind of ridiculous and not good, but they're funny. So this one is Eater of Days. It costs 4 generic mana. It's an artifact creature, Leviathan. It has flying. It has trample. It's a 9/8 for 4 mana. But when it comes into play, you skip your next 2 turns. Now, there are ways in the deck to bring this in at instant speed. Like one of the kind of good cards in the deck, if you like, is Wrath Capuchin, which lets you play artifacts and legendary creatures at instant speed, which is quite good. So you can technically play this on like someone else's end step or something like that. So it's not quite as bad. And one time I played this when someone else had a creature, I can't remember what it's called, but the Fairy Artisans, where they were making a token copy of anything that I created, any creature that I played. So I played this, they created a token copy of it, and it was just the 2 of us playing. And so we both skipped an next 4 turns. is how that would have worked, except they counted it so it didn't happen. But so that's mainly just there for memes, but it's amusing. Here's one that's actually quite decent. Obelisk Spider. 1, a black and a green for a creature spider. It has reach. It's a 1/4. Whenever Obelisk Spider deals combat damage to a creature, put a -1/-1 counter on that creature. Whenever you put 1 or more -1/-1 counters on a creature, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. Now, this is just a solid card by itself, but it does have a combo in the deck. I'm pretty sure, unless I'm remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure in this deck I actually have Yawgmoth thrown position. We have a swamp. We have Shiny Sakura Tribe Scout for 1 green mana. It is a 1/1, a creature snake shaman scout, and you can tap to put a land card from your hand into play. Just some handy ramp. We have Allosaurus Rider, also shiny, 5 green creature elf warrior. Its power and toughness are 1+ star. It says you may remove 2 green cards in your hand from the game, so exile 2 green cards, rather than pay Allosaurus Rider's mana cost. So you can get this down quite early if you really need to. And its power and toughness are each equal to 1 plus the number of lands you control. So it kind of gets better as the game goes along. So it's big, but it's just big. But you can get it down for free if you need to. Also, Chaos Warp, just plain old Chaos Warp. It's quite good. Chaos Warp, 2 and a red for an instant. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they put it onto the battlefield. It's some solid removal. It's good stuff. Next up, Draconic Disciple. 1, a red and a green for a creature, human shaman. It's a 2/2. Tap, add 1 mana of any color, or pay 7, tap and sack it to create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. It's a mana dork, but it also has power and toughness. And later on, when you don't need the mana, you can swap it out for a 5/5 flyer. It's quite nice. Next up, we have another meme card-ish. Kind of. It's okay. It's a Crow and Horse. And for 4 generic mana, it is an 0/4 artifact creature horse with Defender. And when it enters the battlefield, an opponent gains control of it. It doesn't say target opponent either, so even if someone has hexproof, I guess you can still give it to them. So you choose who you want to give this to. And then at the beginning of their upkeep, the person who controls this, each of their opponents, which will include you, creates a 1/1 white soldier creature token. So this does also help other people as well. And you are giving someone an 0/4 defender, but it's memey, it's fun, it's amusing. Next up, we have Daxos, Blessed by the Sun. It's a legendary enchantment creature demigod. This is from the latest Theros set. Its power and toughness are 2/star. Its toughness is equal to your devotion to white. And whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield or dies, you gain 1 life. So the life gain can be quite nice. And it can just be a solid blocker, which is decent. We have a Plains. We have Tachyova, Benthic Druid. This is just a really solid card. 3 green, blue, legendary creature, Merfolk Druid, 3/3. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life and draw a card. It's just fantastic. If you can get that out, it's just really, really nice. This one is a really, really good card. Aetherios, God of Passage, 1 white and a black. Legendary enchantment creature, god from the original Theros sets. Indestructible, 5/4. As long as your devotion to white and black is less than 7, it is not a creature. Whenever another creature you own dies, return it to your hand unless target opponent pays 3 life. It's a very strong ability. We have a forest. We have an island. We have a Noggle Bandit. It is shiny. It is 1 generic mana and 2 hybrid. Is it? So you can do 1 blue, 1 red, or 1 blue, red. It is a creature, Noggle Rogue. It is a 2/2. It says Noggle Bandit can't be blocked except by creatures with Defender. So most of the time it's just a 2/2 that can't be blocked for 3 mana, which is decent. It's fine. Not going to argue about it. Next up, we have Palace Sentinels for 3 and a white. It is a creature human soldier. It's a 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. Like, it's a terrible rate for a 2/4, but becoming the monarch is nice, and I enjoy introducing the monarch into the game, so that's fun. It's good. Here we have our first other scarecrow. Are you ready? Universal Automaton. It's 1 generic mana for an artifact creature shapeshifter. It's a 1/1 changeling. That's it. But if you have Reaper King out, this is 1 mana, destroy a creature. Sorry, destroy target permanent, and also just a 2/2. So if you have Reaper King out, it can be nice. But yeah, that's solely in there as a fake scarecrow. Next up, we have a shiny Myojin of Life's Web. 6 green for a legendary creature spirit. It's an 8/8. It comes into play with the divinity counter on it if you played it from your hand. It's indestructible as long as it has a divinity counter on it, and you can remove that divinity counter to put any number of creature cards from your hand into play. Now, you're probably playing this late game, which means you're not going to have as many cards in hand unless you've got some card draw happening, which in this deck there isn't heaps unless you've got Tachover out in the battlefield and playing the lands and such. But yeah, it's solid. It's an 8/8. It's going to be indestructible probably. So yeah, it's good. Next up, we have a Rules Nightmare of a card, Panglacial Worm. 5 green for a creature worm. It is a 9/5 with trample, which is fine. A 7 mana 9/5 trample. It's fine. What's the problem? Well, it also says, well, while you're searching your library, you may play Panglacial Worm from your library. Now, there are a couple of spells and effects in the deck that will have you searching your library, so it is possible to do this. But keep in mind, it is not play for free. You still need to have the mana to cast Panglacial Worm. But yeah, that's a thing. That is a thing that exists, and good luck with the rules around that, because it makes rules managers twitch. We have another swap. We have another plains. We have another plains. We have another island. I've hit the stack of lands. We have Death Reap Ritual. This is a nice one. 2 and a black and a green for an enchantment. It says Morbid, which is a death trigger. So it says at the beginning of each end step, if a creature died this turn, this is each end step, not just your end step, each end step, if a creature died this turn, you may draw a card. So this is some nice card draw. It's very nice, very handy. And we have a person. Hello, person. Person will probably disappear at some point, but we have a person, so I'm happy. Next up, we have Runetail Kitsune Ascendant. This is a flip card from Kamigawa. It's also shiny, which is nice. It is a legendary creature, Fox Monk. It says, when you have 30 or more life, flip Runetail Kitsune Ascendant. We're playing Commander. We start off with 40 life. So if you manage to get this out before you get down to 30, this will hit the battlefield and immediately flip. And it flips into Runetail's Essence, a legendary enchantment that says prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. That's a very powerful effect. It's a very powerful effect. For just 3 mana, very easy to flip. Yeah, it's nice. We have another forest. We have Wargate. So this is a tutor. It says for X generic mana, green, white, blue, it is a sorcery. It says search your library for a permanent card with converted mana cost X or less, put it into play, then shuffle your library. So usually my target for this is Wrath Capuchin, because Wrath Capuchin kind of makes this deck sing. But Tachover is also quite a decent target as well, but it depends on what's happening at the table at the time and how much mana you have and all of this sort of thing. But Wargate can be quite decent. Next up, we have just kind of a fun card. It's Yargle. Yargle is here to bargle. Yargle has come to bargle. Yargle, Glutton of Urborg. It is 4 and a black for a legendary creature frog spirit. It is a 9/3 with flavor text. It's amusing, and that is it. Next up, we have a fine card, Traveler's Amulet. It is 1 generic mana for an artifact. You can pay 1, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. It's just handy being able to get all your colors. You're in a 5-color deck. There's another island. It's just good being able to get all your colors. Speaking of which, here's another way to not worry about your colors whatsoever. Celestial Dawn. It's shiny. It's old. It costs 1 white, and it is enchantment. It says, lands you control are plains. Non-land cards you own that aren't in play, spells you control, and non-land permanents you control are white. You may spend white mana as though it were mana of any color. You may spend other mana only as though it were colorless mana. So this basically fixes your mana completely. It turns all your lands into kind of tap for 1 mana of any color. But it does turn off mana dorks. They basically turn into only tap for colorless. But it's, yeah, pretty good, pretty decent. Yeah, I haven't used it too much, but it's decent. We have another forest. We have, I love this card, Vigor. 3 green, green, green. I have a couple of other copies of this card that I've had at points, and I've taken them out of decks because it just feels too powerful. This is a creature. It is an elemental incarnation. It is a 6/6 with trample. It says, if damage would be dealt to another creature you control, prevent that damage. Put a +1/+1 counter on that creature for each 1 damage prevented this way. Also, when this card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library. So it's shutting down mill, unless people are milling into exile. And also it's shutting down all combat damage stuff, because your stuff is just going to be getting bigger and getting bigger and getting bigger until they can get rid of Vigor itself. And then your stuff is still big, so they can need a board wipe to get rid of it all, more than likely. Next up is more just an amusing card. It's Tavern Swindler. It costs 1 and a black. It is a creature, human rogue. It is a 2/2, and you can tap and pay 3 life to flip a coin. If you win the flip, you gain 6 life. So basically, you're paying 3 life to maybe have a 50% chance of getting 6 life, so to be up 3 life after that exchange, which is not great. But hey, if you have nothing to do, I guess. Next, we have what is one of the worst, I don't know if it's the worst, but one of the worst cards to try and resolve over webcam. It is Guided Passage. It costs a blue, a red, and a green. It's an old border card. It is a sorcery. It says, reveal the cards in your library. All of them. All of the cards in your library. All of the cards in your deck. Every single freaking one of them. An opponent chooses from among those cards, all of the cards in your library, a creature card, a land card, and a non-creature, non-land card. You put the chosen cards into your hand, then shuffle your library. So basically, you're showing an opponent, well, you're showing everyone your whole deck, and then you're choosing an opponent to go through your deck and give you whichever land they like, whichever creature they like, and whichever card that is not a creature or a land that they like. So chances are they're going to give you a basic, they're going to give you the worst creature they can find, which is probably going to be that Eater of Days that I showed off before, and they're going to give you the worst non-creature, non-land that they can find. But it gets you 3 cards for 3 mana, which is fine. And you can also use it quite politically, of course, as well. Yeah. Next up, we have Sajiri Refuge. It is a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, and it taps for white or blue. And we have Thornwood Falls. When it enters the battlefield tapped, enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. It taps for green or blue. Then we have Greypelt Refuge. Enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. It taps for green or white. Then we have a swamp. Getting all the lands together. Then we have our second ever Scarecrow. It is Farmstead Gleaner, a creature artifact Scarecrow. It is a 2/2. It does not untap during your untap step, but you can pay 2 and untap it to put a +1/+1 counter on it. It's fine. It's a Scarecrow for Reaper King. That's the only reason it's in there. Next up, we have Patron of the Moon. It is shiny. It costs 5 blue and is a legendary creature spirit. It's a 5/4 with flying. It has Moonfolk Offering, which is never happening, but basically it means that you could play this at any time by sacrificing a Moonfolk and paying the difference in mana cost between the Moonfolk and this. But I don't have any Moonfolk in the deck. But so what this actually is a flying 5/4 with the ability of pay 1, put up to 2 land cards from your hand into play tapped. So it kind of ramps you when you're already at 7 mana. But it's also just a big flyer. Next up, we have Embodiment of Spring. It costs 1 blue for a 0/3 creature elemental. You can pay 1 and a green, tap and sacrifice this creature to search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. So it ramps you. It's handy. Next, yes, we have Fibblethip. Fibblethip the Lost. 1 and a blue for a 1/1 legendary creature homunculus. When Fibblethip the Lost enters the battlefield, draw a card. If entered from your library or was cast from your library, draw 2 cards instead. When Fibblethip becomes the target of a spell, shuffle it into its owner's library. There are ways in this deck to be able to cast it from your library, or for it to come into the battlefield from your library, which is fun. I think the only way is Wargate, but there might be 1 or 2 other ways. I'm not sure off the top of my head. We haven't found any other ways yet. Next up, we have Ephemerate. Quite a good card. Should be in more decks. 1 white mana for an instant. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. You flicker something, but then it also has Rebound. So on your next upkeep, you flicker another something. Or maybe the same something. Who knows? But yeah, it's quite good. Next up, we have Cauldron Dance. This is a weird card. 4 a black and a red for an instant. Cast Cauldron Dance only during combat. So it's a bit restricted, but it's an instant. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Then return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. The first half. Then you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Its controller sacrifices at the beginning of the next end step. So basically, there's something goes from your graveyard and something goes from your hand onto the battlefield. They both gain haste. Then the one that was from your hand goes to the graveyard, and the one that was from the graveyard goes to your hand. So they kind of swap in and out, and they do a dance. It's lovely. I love the flavor of it. It costs 6 fucking mana, but I love the flavor of it. It's really fun. And you get 2 creatures kind of for free. Not actually for free. It's for 6 mana. But hopefully they're decent-sized creatures, I guess. And they both have haste, and you can use them. So, yeah. Next up, we have Maelstrom Nexus. I haven't really cast this too often because I don't usually have 5 mana just lying around, because this costs Wooburg, white, blue, black, red, green for an enchantment. The first spell you play each turn has Cascade. So when you cast it, you then exile cards from the top of your library, face up until you reveal a non-land card that costs less than the card you cast, and then you cast that spell for free, which is decent. It's decent. It's fine. Next up, we have Join Shields. It costs 3 generic mana and a green and a white. It is an instant. It says untap all creatures you control. All of them. They gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So this is a great way of saving your creatures from board wipes and stuff like that, or maybe you're having people swinging at you for a lot of damage, and you go, hey, I'm going to untap all of my stuff and make it all indestructible. Seems good. It does cost 5 mana, so it's a decent amount to be holding up. But later game, maybe you have that amount. We have another swamp. We have a Carpet of Flowers. It is 1 green mana for an enchantment. During your main phase, you may add up to X mana of one color, X mana of one color to your mana pool, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls. Now, basically any pod that you're in, any commander game that you're in, there will be one player at least who is playing blue, or some blue at least, who has some amount of islands. And even if you're getting an extra 1 or 2 mana each turn, that's worth it. That's worth it, 100%. And often it'll be more than that. It'll be 3 or 4 or 5 mana quite frequently. We have our first mountain. Goodness. I think there's not too much red in this deck. We have a Mirrodin's Core, which is a land. You can tap to add colorless, or you can tap, put a charge counter on it, and then tap, remove a charge counter to add 1 mana of any color. We have another mountain. There we go. We have a Winding Constrictor. It costs a black and a green. It is a creature snake. It is a 2/3. If 1 or more counters will be placed on an artifact or creature you control, that many of those counters plus 1 are placed on that permanent instead. If you would get 1 or more counters, you get that many of those counters plus 1 instead. Now, of course, that can be both a positive and negative thing depending on the sort of counters you're getting. I hope you're not going up against an Infect deck when you play that card, but I guess if you're going up an Infect deck, you don't play that card. There are a few things in this deck that will do +1/+1 counter stuff, like Vigor, for instance. But yeah, it's fine. It's okay. We have another mountain. We have a Burnished Heart. 3 mana for an artifact creature elk. It's a 2/2. You can pay 3 and sacrifice it. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. It ramps you, it fixes you, it does all the fun things. We also have a Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size. It's a land. You can tap it, add colorless. It's fine. The maximum hand size almost definitely won't come into play, but it's handy to have as a thing. Next up, Sandstone Oracle. It costs 7 generic mana. It's an artifact creature Sphinx. It's a 4/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. If that player has more cards in hand than you, if you've chosen them, hopefully they do, you draw cards equal to the difference. So this can draw you some cards, and it's also just a 4/4 flyer, which is fine. Next up, we have Dominate. Black-red, instant, destroy target creature, can't be regenerated. Some solid removal for 2 mana. Just good. Next up, Thran Dynamo. Some ramp, 4 generic mana for an artifact. Add 3 colorless mana to your mana pool. Does the job. Does the job. This one also does the job. It's Putrefy. 1, a black and a green. For an instant, destroy target artifact or creature. It can't be regenerated. Again, some solid removal there. So we've got some decent cards in this deck. That's a forest. More removal. Mortify. 1, a white and a black. Instant, destroy target creature or enchantment. I suppose this time it can be regenerated, but there's not much regeneration happening these days. Forest. Next up, Sakashima the Imposter. This is OG Sakashima. Legendary creature, human rogue. It's a 3/1. As Sakashima the Imposter comes into play, you may choose a creature in play. If you do, Sakashima comes into play as a copy of that creature, except its name is still Sakashima the Imposter. It's still legendary, and it gains 2 blue. Return Sakashima the Imposter to its owner's hand at end of turn. Sakashima is just great. It's really, really good, and it will do some really fun things. We have another forest. We have Wrath Capuchin. I have mentioned them a couple of times already. They kind of make this deck sing. As you've seen, we have a number of legendary creatures. We have a number of artifacts. And Wrath Capuchin is 2 generic, a white and a blue, for a 3/3 legendary creature, human wizard. he is flash, he is flying, but he also says you may cast historic spells as though they had flash. Artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. There are no sagas in this deck, but there are certainly artifacts and legendaries. And so, yeah, that can kind of change how you play and mean that you're suddenly casting not everything at instant speed, but a decent bunch of things at instant speed, which is handy. We have another planes. We have an alternate win condition. Yes, there is an alternate win condition in this deck, and it is Approach of the Second Sun. 6 and a white for a sorcery. If Approach of the Second Sun was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun this game, you win the game. Otherwise, put Approach of the Second Sun into its owner's library 7th from the top, and you gain 7 life. Yeah, that's a thing that can happen. It's probably not going to happen because the first time you cast it, someone is going to, try and shuffle your deck or kill you, more than likely. So, like, we have player removal, or they'll, hold up a counter spell and all that sort of thing. But yeah, that's a thing that can do. There's not like ways in this deck to be able to do that twice in one turn, as far as I know. But it's a thing that you can try and do. There's another island. There's another island. There's another forest. I'll need to do some good shuffling after this. There is a Pilgrim's Eye. It costs 3 generic mana. It is an artifact creature, Thopter. It's a 1/1 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Gets you the lands that you need. Next up, we have Sultai Charm. Solid little card. Love the charms. Black, a green, and a blue. For an instant, choose one. Destroy target monocolored creature, or destroy target artifact or enchantment, or draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Just some really useful modes. You're always going to have a good target for that. Then we have this weird card. Spellweaver Volute. This is from Future Sight. This is 3 blue for an enchantment aura. It says enchant instant card in a graveyard. Yeah, this is pretty fucking weird. It says whenever you play a sorcery spell, you copy the enchanted instant card. You may play the copy without paying its mana cost. If you do, remove the enchanted card, so the instant that you play for free, from the game. So you exile it after you cast it. And you attach Spellweaver Volute to another instant card in a graveyard. So you can basically, how this works is you can attach this to any instant card in any graveyard, not just your own. And then, so this is 5 mana to cast. So it's a steep cost to cast it. But then once you've done that, next time you cast a sorcery spell, you get to play that instant for free. And then you choose another instant to attach this to. And then you play another sorcery spell, and then you get that instant for free. And then that cycle kind of keeps repeating. Now, the trick is that this only triggers off sorceries. There are sorceries in this deck, but this isn't a spell slingy deck. So you're not doing this that many times. There also aren't that many instants in this deck, so there aren't going to be that many targets in your graveyard for you to be able to hit. Also, this is very easy to interrupt. If anyone has ways of exiling stuff from graveyards, then this just shuts down and doesn't happen anymore. But it's a cool, fun little card, and I had some fun including it in there. Next up, we have Avacyns Pilgrim, a nice mana dork. 1 green mana for a creature. Human Monk, it's a 1/1. It taps to add white mana to your mana pool. It's fine. Next up, we have Questing Feldergriff. We have the Hippo. 1, a green, a white, and a blue for a 4/4 creature, Feldergriff. The flying hippo is here. So you can pay green, and it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Target opponent puts a 1/1 green hippo creature token into play. Or you can pay white, and it gains protection from black and from red until end of turn, and target opponent gains 2 life. Or you can pay blue, and it gains flying until end of turn. Target opponent may draw a card. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. It's pretty funny. It's a bit group huggy, but it's very funny. Forest. Basic Forest. Basic Plums. I love this card as well. Meandering Tower Shell. It's a turtle. Turtle. Creature turtle. It costs 3 green. It's a 5/9 with Island Walk. But when it attacks, exile it. Return it to the battlefield under your control, tapped and attacking at the beginning of the declare attacker's step on your next turn. So this is so slow that when you attack with it, it doesn't hit until your next turn. But it's a 5/9 with Island Walk, so it probably won't be blocked. It can probably get through, but you're only hitting with it every other turn. So, yeah. Or it's just a fantastic blocker. It's a 5/9. So, your choice. But it's just a fun card. Next up, we have Law Mage's Binding. This is 1 and a white and a blue for an enchantment aura. It has flash. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature cannot attack or block, and its activated abilities cannot be activated. That second part is really handy. Someone not being able to activate abilities of their creature is just really, really good. Like, pacifism often isn't enough for the good creatures these days, because creatures, particularly in Commander, what we're talking about, creatures often have some really good abilities on them. Doesn't shut down triggered abilities, but does shut down activated abilities. Next up, we have a card I really enjoy. Belligerent Brontodon. It's 5 generic mana, green and a white for a creature dinosaur. It's a 4/6, and each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. I remember building a deck around this card in MTG Arena back when it was like in beta or whatever it was, and Ixalan was one of the ones that was in there, and building a deck around this card and having so much fun with it. So yeah, I love that I was able to include that in this deck. It's not that good. It's not that good, but I have fun with it, and I'm happy to include it in there. At one point, maybe I'll build a Walls deck or something like that. I don't know. But yeah. Next up, we have Blinding Soul Eater. It costs 3 generic mana. It's an artifact creature cleric. It's a 1/3, and for Phyrexian white, which means either white or 2 life, and tap this, you can tap target creature. So it's a tapper. For just 1 white mana, or for 2 life, you can tap something and tap it down. That's a mountain. That is a mana weft sliver. It is the only sliver in the deck. So it costs 1 and a green. It is a 1/1 sliver, and it says sliver creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So basically, this is a mana dork, but it taps for 1 mana of any color. It's decent. Oh, this is a fun card. Extract from Darkness. 3, a blue, and a black for a sorcery. Each player mills 2. Then put a creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So everyone mills 2, and then you get to pick, out of all the creatures in the graveyards, the best creature, and you get it onto the battlefield. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, if you do it early enough in the game, then there might not be enough. There might not be anything good in graveyards, but usually you only cast that if you've already got a decent target that you'd be happy with, just in case no one mills anything good. But yeah, that can be quite a solid card. Get you something pretty great. Next up, we have Solemn Simulacrum, the classic artifact creature golem. It costs 4 generic mana. It's a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. And when it dies, you draw a card. It's Old Faithful. Next up, we have a board wipe. We have a board wipe in this deck. It's Savage Twister, X red and green. A sorcery, it deals X damage to each creature. It does the job. It's expensive. It's expensive, particularly if you've got big things on the board, but it can do the job well. And particularly if you're facing up against something like a token deck, you know, with lots of 1/1s or something like that, it can do quite well for fairly little investment. But yeah, it just does the job. That is a basic forest. That is a Norn's Annex, and a shiny one at that. 3 generic mana and 2 white Phyrexian mana. So again, white Phyrexian mana can be paid with either white mana or 2 life. It's an artifact that says creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. There are no planeswalkers in this deck, unless their controller pays Phyrexian white mana for each of those creatures. So it means players have to either pay white mana or 2 life for each of the creatures they're attacking you with, which is quite good. It's quite good. Particularly if they don't have a white mana and have to pay the 2 life, that is handy. We have another island. We have a Tempt with Discovery. So good. Tempt with Discovery is 3 in a green. It's a sorcery. Tempting offer. Search your library for a land card, any land, and put it onto the battlefield. Untap. Well, it doesn't say that it comes in tapped. Anyway, each opponent may search their library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. For each opponent who does, you search your library for an additional land card and put it onto the battlefield. Then each player who searched a library this way shuffles it. This is a really solid card, and the thing is, like, like you've seen most of the deck by now. This deck does not have crazy lands in it. This deck has very, very, very fair lands. Like the sort of lands that you're getting with this are an Ancient Ziggurat, a Reliquary Tower, a Thornwood Falls, or something like that. Like it's a land that taps for 2 different colors of mana and comes in tapped and gains you 1 life when it comes in. Like all you're doing with this is fixing yourself. You're not getting anything scary. So you can tell that to people, and you can go, hey, let's all get some lands. I'm getting more lands, yes, but these aren't scary lands that I'm getting. You can probably get much, much, much better lands than what I can get. And that will probably mean that people will be fine with getting those lands. Next up, we have Wall of 1,000 Cuts. This is just an amusing card. It is 3 white for a creature wall. It is a 3/5 with Defender and Flying. But you can pay 1 white, and then it can attack as though it did not have Defender. It's just a decent, solid card. Next up, we have Croson Verge, probably the best land in the deck. Enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for a colorless, or you can pay 2, tap, and sacrifice it to go get a forest and a plains and put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. We have a swamp. We have an Alloy Mirror. It costs 3 generic mana. It's a 2/2 artifact creature mirror, and you tap it to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Just a solid little card. Coming near to the end, next up we have Spawning Grounds, 6 green for an enchantment aura. Enchant land. Enchanted land has tap, create a 5/5 green beast. Creature token with trample. Trample is nice. Phyrexian Metamorph. Solid card. 3 in a Phyrexian blue mana for an artifact creature shapeshifter. Phyrexian blue can be paid with either blue or 2 life. It's a 0/0, but you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any artifact or creature on the battlefield, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. Phyrexian Metamorph is very good. It's as good as the best thing on the battlefield, probably. And last up, we have Echoing Decay. 1 and a black for an instant. Target creature and all other creatures with the same name as that creature get -2/-2 until end of turn. So that's a great way at getting rid of like a bunch of tokens, or if you're up against, say, not the Persistent Petitioners, but Relentless Rats, or the Shadowborn Apostles, or something like that. It can get rid of a bunch of them all at once. or usually just tokens. But yeah, that is the deck. I hope you enjoyed that. I have a lot of fun playing this deck. It feels like jank, but it actually plays fairly well against most other decks. Like, it's not super strong or anything, but I'd say it's maybe a 6, maybe a 7. Probably not 7, but probably a 6. It does reasonably well, and I'm really happy with it, and I have a lot of fun with it. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this look at this deck. Maybe I'll do another live stream at some point. We'll see how we go. But bye for now. Thanks for watching if you did, and I'll see you some other time.